Hello, everyone. Today, I'm really excited to share with you an interesting project I recently completed. Venetian plaster designed to mimic Bianco Carrara marble. Authentic Venetian plaster, just as it should be. So, get comfortable and let's dive in. First things first, let's talk about the preparation. What do we do initially? We start by applying a white primer paint onto an already primed base. The goal here is to completely cover the wall, ensuring there are no visible spots or imperfections, creating a clean canvas for our Venetian plaster. Now for the material itself. Our Venetian plaster is tinted. We're working with black pigmented Venetian plaster and white Venetian plaster. I'm going to be applying the black Venetian plaster locally in broad strokes and veins. Before you even think about starting a project like this, I highly recommend looking up images of Bianco Carrara marble online. This will give you a clear reference for the natural veins and patterns you're trying to replicate. Once you have that visual in mind, I take a regular spatula and actually mix the white and black Venetian plaster directly on it. Then I apply these broad veins to the wall. I start by applying a thick layer, and then I immediately go back and scrape off the excess material in what we call a dry scrape fashion. This technique leaves behind a beautiful, almost imprinted, thin layer of material. The result? Gorgeous, delicate veins that hardly require any sanding or additional coverage. It's a fantastic starting point for our marble effect. When you're working on a large area, friends, it's not just an option, it's essential to step back and observe your work from a distance. This allows you to see how everything is coming together and where you might need to add more material. Honestly, doing this type of work is so much more engaging and in some ways simpler than creating classic Venetian plaster designs. Now, pay close attention to this next part. As the Venetian plaster dries, it lightens considerably. You'll notice it was quite dark when wet, and then it becomes much lighter. But don't worry, that's completely normal and nothing to be concerned about. When I start to polish it, the color will deepen again and become much more saturated and dark. It will also develop a beautiful sheen. Next up, what I do is take the white Venetian plaster and simply cover everything with 2 coats. After that, I grab some sandpaper. I recommend using a fine grit, something around 320 to 400. Anything too coarse and you'll end up with visible scratches. Then we reveal the veins, or more accurately, we refine them by lightly sanding. We also add material locally where needed, and make sure to clean off any dust. Now comes the really artistic part, drawing the veins. I take some Venetian plaster and dilute it with water to achieve the right consistency, typically around 40% water. For drawing the veins, I use both a small, fine brush and a wider, larger brush. This allows me to create a variety of vein types, just like you see in natural marble. You'll notice I have many wide veins, and then I add those thinner, more delicate ones. I'll be honest with you, this part can be quite time-consuming, especially on a large surface, and I often find myself quite tired from drawing all those veins. But the final result is truly beautiful. One of the great things about this process is its flexibility. You can always go back and add darker colors or touch up areas throughout the entire job. Why is this so convenient? Because you'll always be polishing on dry Venetian plaster, not wet. This significantly simplifies the task. So even if you apply a thick layer, you don't need to scrape it completely dry. If you leave a little, it will still be covered by the white plaster later, and the veins you draw will remain visible. The white plaster simply fills in around them. As you're drawing the veins, it's crucial to ensure your surface remains dust-free. I personally make sure of this every step of the way. And just a reminder again, when the Venetian plaster dries, it will lighten. So don't be alarmed. It's always a good idea to make some samples for reference. You can always sand it later and add lighter Venetian plaster on top. There's so much room to play and experiment with this technique, it's truly enjoyable. Now, regarding those veins themselves, you might notice that in some rooms, like this one, I incorporated more broad veins. In others, I might focus on thinner ones. For those of you who might feel a bit daunted by drawing veins, I have a simple suggestion. Practice. Grab a pencil and a piece of paper and just practice drawing different vein patterns. It's really not that difficult. If you're using a brush and you don't like a vein you've just drawn, you can take a damp sponge or cloth, make sure it's not dripping wet, and simply wipe away the vein. Do this immediately before the plaster has absorbed or dried. If it has already dried, no problem. You can use sandpaper to lightly sand it off. So there's really no need to worry about mistakes. This work is truly creative, and you need to approach it with a creative mindset. If your hands are a bit shaky or you're feeling uncertain, just take a deep breath and remember that patience and practice are key. Don't be afraid to experiment. Once we've drawn all the veins, established the texture, sanded everything, and removed all the dust, we begin the polishing process. I use an angle grinder for this. I actually have 2 detailed videos on my channel specifically showing how to polish decorative Venetian plaster, so you can check those out for a more in-depth explanation. This polishing phase is truly a fascinating and rewarding part of the process. The incredible shine you see is actually the result of the angle grinder's action. I don't use spatulas or anything else for this polishing stage. Instead, I use an angle grinder fitted with a sheepskin polishing pad, not a felt one. It works wonders. For areas like columns where the angle grinder might not fit, I simply remove the polishing pad from the grinder and use it by hand. You'd be surprised. The result is still excellent. After all that, we'll be applying wax on top, which will make it look even better. I really want to emphasize this. Working with Venetian plaster is significantly easier and often less expensive than working with acrylic Venetian plaster or putty. That's why I strongly advise using authentic Venetian plaster over putty. So the final step involves the wax. We take special wax designed for Venetian plaster and apply it evenly over the entire surface. Then we let it dry for a few hours. Once it's dry, I take my angle grinder, again with the sheepskin polishing pad, and begin to polish the wax, rubbing it into the surface. This really brings out the depth and sheen of the finish. And that's it. This is how I achieved this beautiful wall decor. I'm really looking forward to hearing your expert opinions and thoughts on this project. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have. I'll be happy to answer them. And if you found this helpful, please share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, everyone. Keep on renovating, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.